If you have any input or advice or thoughts, please leave comments. These aren't spider hands, these are commenting hands. I don't know who else types like this, but I totally type like this. I'm super happy to be back live broadcasting. Oh my gosh, I've missed it so much. So, today I just wanted to share with everybody that MoneyMind.GLOBAL is live. And that means that you can go and sign up for the pre-launch notifications and just let me know what you think. I've worked really hard on this site on making it as simple as possible. And yes, okay, we know I'm a turtle. It takes me forever to do everything. And we also know that, um, yeah, I'm quite pedantic and don't have the best of luck with technology stuff. So it's taken a really long time to get this very, very simple, smooth, easy to use website up and running at moneymind.global. So that's that. I couldn't get the .com, okay? So yeah, I got global because we're all around the world, and I thought that was quite nice. And so I decided when creating this website for this mission that I have on increasing financial literacy around the world for mainstream people who have iPhones and are online and on social media, increasing the conversations about financial literacy, I decided that I wanted to make sure that the site was nice to use. You know how frustrating it is when you go onto a website and you're like, where is the thing? Where is the stuff? How do I find this? How do I go back? Or you need to try and search something and then the search bar is somewhere obscure. So what I decided to do was ask, what are we all doing a lot of right now online? And we're scrolling social media in these, difficult indoor times. We're scrolling online. We're on social media and we are also craving travel and, let's be honest, online shopping. So I thought, okay, I miss travel a lot and I miss going to pools and having these lovely, beautiful, watery locations around. I live on an island. I'm in Hong Kong and on Hong Kong Island. And so I get to see the harbor and that's really lovely. And I think that that's something that I really miss about traveling is going to other waterfronts, if that makes sense. That sounds really weird now that I say it like that. Um, but being in other climates, being around other people, and just having those experiences of travel. So I decided for the website to keep that in mind, the fact that we miss travel, the fact that we're doing a lot of online shopping, and choose a template and theme for MoneyMind.global that was actually a travel luxury resort template with an online shopping kind of feeling to it. So I wanted it to be able to be scrolled through really easily. I wanted it to be really super, super simple and easy to see what you wanted to do, where the sections were. It's got a sidebar where it has the menu. You can scroll down that. It's got the front page that says, here's all you need to know in terms of why we're here, what we're doing, and how to access our very simple courses that will be available in the months ahead, still in building. Hi, Kevin. Yes, thank you for letting us know that there's a black thunderstorm warning in Hong Kong. So thank you everybody who's joining and everybody who's watching on replay. A quick recap that I am Raven and I am here broadcasting and I will start to be broadcasting much more frequently again since Periscope shut down in 2021 April, and it was such a shame because it was such a wonderful, wonderful community of people that were there, a lot of whom have since migrated over to a platform called Haps, which is what I'm using to broadcast on. And Haps is fantastic. If you haven't heard of it yet, I highly recommend jumping over and joining because it's a new and great way to monetize if you're into monetizing your broadcasting. So I will be using it mostly for just talking with people, connecting with people around the world, and sharing my mission of financial literacy. I am not a financial advisor. I am not a qualified financial coach or anything like that. I just talk about my own experiences and my own reasons for wanting to launch this social enterprise of MoneyMind, which is now at MoneyMind.GLOBAL. Yay! I'm just gonna keep saying that through the whole time, yeah. Um, and I think what really made this important to me was when I was younger, starting work quite early, quite young, and just feeling really overwhelmed and very avoidant of my money stuff. So I was making money, but I just was kind of making a mess with it. I sort of eventually ended up figuring out how to do some investing and did bits and pieces here and there. But generally, my feeling and my relationship with money itself was fearful and uncomfortable and a bit overwhelmed. I didn't know the tools to apply, and it seemed really complicated. It seemed like I needed to know all this stuff in order to be able to do just the basic investing, the basics of savings, and budgeting seemed really overwhelming, which is why after years of trying to figure it out myself and talking to many people in different industries, in the finance industry, I realized that personal finance and normal finance are completely different in terms of business finance. I mean, personal finance can be broken down into pretty basic pillars of financial literacy, which confusingly aren't taught as a basic staple in school. Perhaps because it's so simple that we don't need to spend a whole year studying it, but I feel that this area is really, really vital to our lives because all of us use money, regardless of how we choose to judge it. All of us use money in our daily lives. And as a result, not managing it or feeling very uncomfortable around it adds an element of discomfort into our lives that doesn't need to be there. So I created the 5 pillars of financial stability for my own use in my own life. And this is not a recommendation of a personal finance, advisor plan. This is just what I have done in my experience. And it worked really well for us and made me feel much more stable and secure. And as a result, I decided to create MoneyMind to share this with other people because it was so simple. And I felt very frustrated that I had to create it myself instead of being able to just find it or be taught it. Or how you created it. And I didn't really understand why that was the case. I do know and recognize that financial services, financial industry, personal finance is a very, very big area and it's very complicated. But the basics of personal finance management, in terms of the 5 pillars that I've created, which also adhere to the OECD financial literacy for teenagers guidelines, they're really, really easy to plug and play. They can be used by anybody, anywhere. The 5 pillars themselves are money mindsets, savings, budgeting, investing, wills and legacy. And the MoneyMind course that I'm going to be creating, I'm currently creating, for all of us to be able to access quite easily online and do in our own time, covers these 5 in a very nice, brief overview that can be done in the space of a week or in the space of a day if we're really enthusiastic about it. And it just says, here are the pillars that we need to know about, and here's why we need to know about them. It doesn't go into huge details. It doesn't use numbers to explain things because I have dyscalculia, and that's numbers dyslexia, which means I can't explain things or understand number stuff anyways. So I always thought I'd be really terrible at money things because of the fact that I was bad at maths. And because I was bad at maths, I just avoided money stuff. So that's kind of unfortunate because I could have benefited a lot from knowing these basics and realizing that money and personal finance is more about behaviors than it is about just numbers and maths. So that was really, really useful for me to finally realize that if I can adjust my behaviors, then I can do absolutely brilliant things with my, personal finance life and be fine and create stability and then create wealth and, be in a position where my life is much less stressful and money becomes very, very clearly a simple tool for me to be able to serve in my community, give back, and be of value in the world. That type of thing, right? Which is really what money is for. It's just to get us through our daily lives. It's just to make sure that we have all we need to be able to survive in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and then also start to climb into the comfort level of self-actualization. And I personally believe, and one of my motivations for this whole area is that we are, as humans generally, very, very broad. I'm just going to go real full broad here. If you're not into this, then this is not the channel for you, because this stuff is going to come up a lot. I believe that we are blessed to be at a stage of humanity where we're in the fourth industrial revolution, and we have access to all kinds of information that we really didn't have in such large amounts anymore. And that's causing us to be able to connect with each other and unite more clearly in terms of consciousness, to raise the bar on our standards for how we go through life, how we treat others, how we treat creatures, how we ingest food, take care of ourselves, and support our communities and our families and ourselves. So there are a lot of areas that we can see this happening in terms of mental health and wellness and equality and inclusiveness. And I love all of this progress that we are going through right now. And I feel that we are moving into this self-actualization stage, or starting to move into these self-actualization stages where we can really focus on giving back and making an impact. And because of the fact that we're able to give back and make an impact, I feel that if we had more freedom to be able to, if we had more freedom to be able to focus on that instead of on managing and stressing about our personal finance management lives, we would have much more space, time, and energy to give to what I think is the most important part, which is what our self-actualization will bring into the world. And so I said, what can I do to help support that particular part of people being able to thrive and flourish? And I realized that personal finance and money is an area that can be a hindrance on that journey. And if we had a little bit of an earlier start where we could really feel like we are on good footing, stable ground, and have the knowledge or the basics to be able to build stability moving forward, then we have a lot of space here to be able to live and thrive and focus on existing rather than surviving or coping or managing with the struggles of financial literacy that we could have learned earlier, right? If we have financial stress, it takes up this much space in our lives. Everyone who's had it, I've had it, it's just really, really invasive. We feel it when we go to buy something. We feel it, in our daily lives, just when we're doing other things. It's just an underlying stress that is really annoying and stressful, saddening, and depressing for a lot of people. And I struggled with feeling depressed because I was very overwhelmed by a lot of things in life. I was in media from very young, from when I was working full-time in media when I was 17 years old, and I was thrown into this world where I could do extremely well because of my work character and ethic, but I had no self-support systems built in. I had no coping mechanisms built in, and I was really just going 100%, just driving on instinct and doing well by other people's standards, but not in a really balanced, sustainable way. And I knew that there was something missing from my life, and what that turned out to be was community and connection, which is why now I do a lot more charity work, and I work with leadership programs, and I am a mentor, and I mentor underprivileged teens. I work with the Women's Foundation leadership mentoring in their program and connecting and creating opportunities for other rising women leaders and current women leaders to be able to network and meet each other and support each other as they all rise together. So I have found my niche in terms of creating opportunities for people to be able to thrive on their own journeys. And Money Mind is really, for me, a way to be able to take that a few steps earlier and help people to begin to put the pieces in place that will open up the space for them to bloom. And I really love that about financial literacy. It's an area that I was personally very, very nervous about when I was younger. I had grown up with the idea that money is the root of all evil. If you've heard this quote, I say it as a quote, not like a make-believe thing. It's a real quote that a lot of us have heard. But when I started to listen to a lot of Dave Ramsey on YouTube while we were going through a very stressful time of life building a startup, I realized that he had a lot of interesting views on this quote, and he had studied the origins of it in a way that was quite useful for me to hear the alternative perspective on it from someone who was very, very actively engaged in like the roots of where it came from. Not obviously like the root, the original roots, but like translations of this and how it has been misinterpreted according to him in some contexts. So, the idea that being in love with something more than our family, more than our life, more than our community, being obsessed with something is not very healthy. Like being in love with our car, or being in love with our bank account, or being in love with our job. Like it's quite commonly known that it's less healthy to be completely like a holic, right? A workaholic or a spendaholic or anything aholic. I think that kind of area. So I think that was really useful for me to know. And Kevin has just mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk. I also really like him. He has such high energy, though. My brain is always reeling after listening to him because he's just so engaged and enthusiastic. And I do love seeing his videos. And a trick that I use that brings Gary Vaynerchuk to mind, because that's where I see him most, is I curate my Instagram. So this is something that I'll maybe write a blog about, or maybe do another live broadcast about. But I realized that I wanted to improve my personal finance area, and I wanted to increase my knowledge in this area. But what I was really mainly lacking was exposure to it. I was surprised by that because I am extremely well exposed in the center of Central, hanging out with a lot of finance industry people. I'm well exposed to a lot of finance stuff. My husband is in finance. I have always hung out with bankers. I'm not quite sure why. I think it's because I talk a lot as well, and I'm very like noisy and yelling. So we all just kind of stand around yelling and being noisy together, despite the fact that I'm an introvert, which is really weird. But I was surprised that I had so much exposure to sort of finance industry stuff, which I couldn't recite back to you, by the way, because I just, it doesn't go in. I'm more of a designer brain than a financial numeric brain. But I realized that actually in my normal personal finance day-to-day life, I don't really have a lot of information coming in from daily conversations. I wasn't talking so much about it with my girlfriends or with other women that I knew. Or even with other guys that I knew about personal finance. It would more just be about business stuff with guys, and then business stuff with my female friends, right? We talk about, some things, tips and things that were, jewelry related, or I love jewelry, obviously. Jewelry related, or things that bags, or things that we enjoyed. But most of our conversations would gear around our lives as entrepreneurs and our challenges and our personal development in terms of how do we level up, how do we manage stress, how do we be more productive, how do we balance taking on new employees with the stress or pressures of having to raise investments, my friends were going through at the time, or having to negotiate contracts, because I was doing my own contracts from quite young, because I was very blessed to have an incredible uncle, mentor person in Hong Kong who was a lawyer. He's now a barrister. Um, and he was just a genius and fantastic, and really took me under his wing and taught me a lot. And I was already that way inclined, being a full literature geek, having a reading age of 13 when I was 8, and being accelerated in school. Um, but I really, was able to really understand law quite easily, also because I quite like Latin, right? Um, and so that made it an area that I feel quite naturally inclined towards, which is why I studied law later when I took a break after media. Um, but the fact is that these conversations about business and entrepreneurship and getting ahead, moving ahead and moving forward, didn't help me with my sort of day-to-day basic financial literacy. And I started to curate my Instagram. So that's what I now really strongly do. And I will follow people I love and like. And then I will sometimes mute them and keep their IG stories, because most people now, and most of my friends, will mostly focus on their IG stories as where they primarily share their day-to-day lives, right? And so I realized that if I can mute the stories, mute the main feed of people that are just posting a picture of this or that or whatever, I would most likely see their updates in the stories. And I could then follow mostly accounts that were business oriented, or finance hacks, or personal finance, or personal development, Mrs. Dow Jones or the Jura Society in the UK. Those types of feeds. 5 a.m. I think is or before 5 a.m. is another account, and just there's so many of them out there that are business, ambition, development, and I started to mute everyone except the business accounts, and okay, one or two funny like parrot accounts because I love animal accounts, and I started to have my feed show with all of these micro educating blips from all of these different platforms that are on personal finance, on financial development, on investing, on that area of life, budgeting, right? And then I can always just go onto Instagram and look at my friends' stories and reply and post, and then go onto their pages as a result of seeing their story update. And that really made a difference to me, because of the fact that when I went onto my Instagram, I would often get bam, 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 2 or 3 posts that have inspiring quotes, money mindsets, or tips and hints from helpful people on these areas. It made a big difference to me. And so that's something that I would really strongly recommend. And I'll do another broadcast on that topic later. But for now, I just wanted to remind you that this is broadcasted on HAPS across multiple different platforms. And the reason why it's super, super fun is that this platform means that people can write on their own platforms. If you're on Facebook, if you're on another platform, then you can type there and it will come in here and I can reply you. But here's the downside. If you want to see all the comments from all the platforms, you have to be here on HAPS. So that's why it's recommended to actually join HAPS, because then you can see all the comments from all these different places, which is really fantastic. But you can also use your favorite platform if that's where you prefer to be. But just to let you know that that's what's happening, in case you end up seeing in future, because now, it's quite quiet. I've just started. It was my first day back to broadcasting because I've been spending all of this time building this website, which I'm so proud of. MoneyMind.GLOBAL is now live. Yay! For sign up. So you can sign up there. But in the future, as we start to get a little bit more traction and more regularity, coming back to broadcast again with all my favorite people, all of you, it may start to look like a bit of a crazy mess with the comments. just a heads up from what we have seen happen in the past. And when that happens, it can be a bit confusing if you see me reply to comments that are from platforms that you may not be able to see if you're not watching it originally on HAP. So that's what's going on there, and that's what you will see also with the live broadcasts. So thank you for joining. I'm just going to wrap up by saying, please go and visit MoneyMind.global if you have any interest in this topic of financial literacy, improving your personal finance, and really getting the beginner's first steps onto the ladder of feeling your confidence increase around this area. If you're a bit nervous, if you feel like you're bad at math, if you feel like maybe there's an area that you haven't really paid as much attention to and might want to like, improve a little or just get a little bit of eyes on what other people or what I am experiencing in terms of that area, then we will have free mini courses that you can go. You can go and see previews of the course itself to see if you like it. You can see the mini videos and then just get little snippets. And if you like it enough to buy the full course, then great. If you think, oh, this isn't really for me, then that's fine too, because it's really there for whoever will find it helpful and useful. And for everybody else, it's great to just have you here chatting about it and having the conversations that we need to have in order to engage and improve financial literacy around the world. This is, I know, a big goal, but when we start talking about things more, we start to get more awareness of it, we start to feel connected, and we start to be able to support each other. So that for me is really, really important, and why I'm doing this and why I'm motivated and why I've created MoneyMind itself. So please go have a look at MoneyMind.global. Thanks for being here, Kevin. So nice to see you. I'm going to stay indoors and keep working on things. So everybody else, thank you for watching, either live or on a replay, and I will see you another time. Raven here, signing out. Please go visit Money